Hey there everybody, and welcome back. For those of you that are interested in purchasing or simply comparing the Nintendo Switch, the OLED model, and the Lite, you've come to the right place. I'm going to be doing that in this video. Now before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe and check out the channel for new content. Now we'll jump straight in. In the description, I'm going to provide a couple of links. So I'm going to bring this up, and this will be in the description as well. So the video that I'm going to provide in the description is an unboxing of this model. I bought this just before Christmas of 2021, although this is one of the newer standard Switch models, so as long as you're interested in that model, this video will still be relevant. And honestly, as long as you're interested in that model compared to the OLED and standard Switch Lite, this will still be relevant. Now, jumping straight in, we're going to cover a couple major differences. So I have this link in the description as well. So basically, we're going to walk through primary differences between these devices. Now, size and weight, there's really not much of a difference here. So you'll notice the standard Switch and OLED are basically the same exact size. This is bold here, but I saw on another website where this was 9.4 inches long, essentially making it the same essentially the same across all dimensions as the standard Switch, but a 0.1 inch difference on length is really not going to make a huge difference as far as the gaming setup or anything else. The screen size is what we'll cover next, but you'll see the Switch Lite is substantially shorter, so this one's noticeably smaller across the board, except it has the same 0.55 inches deep. Now going down to weight, so you'll see there's not much of a difference here either. So 0.66 inches for the standard, 0.71 for the OLED, and then that does increase when you add those Joy-Con controllers. The Nintendo Switch Lite comes in at 0.61 pounds. I don't think you're going to notice much of a difference there, and I honestly would not personally let that determine what model's best for me. Next, we have the multi-touch capacitive touchscreen. So you'll notice that's the same for the OLED and standard. However, there is a 6.2 inch size screen or 6.2 inch screen. That's an LCD screen with a 1280 by 720 resolution on the Switch standard. And that's a 7 inch screen on the OLED model, still with the 1280 by 720 resolution. That is smaller screen coming in at 5.5 inches on the Nintendo Switch Lite. This right here is what, to me, makes the OLED model worth it, and honestly is really the biggest and one of very few differences between the OLED and the standard. So the main reason for this, and we're going to pull up this picture here, it may not look like a huge difference, but when you're holding a device like this as close to your face as you likely will be, I mean, we're literally at arm's length, this is going to make a relatively noticeable difference. Now, if you're looking to get the OLED model because it's newer and you're thinking maybe there's going to be some performance improvements, you're unfortunately going to be let down there. So we're looking at an NVIDIA custom Tegra processor. If I'm not mistaken, it's pretty much the same across all three devices. So you're not going to notice much of a difference as far as the actual performance itself. Now, the Nintendo Switch OLED, one more thing it has going for it is they did double the storage capacity. So in the Switch Lite and the standard, they have a 32 gig internal storage, and the OLED model has 64 gigs. However, if you're going to be doing some really heavy gaming and downloading a lot, obviously you're going to need the micro SD card slot. Not much of a difference. It looks like they're all supporting 2 terabytes. So that's really just that 32 gig upgrade from the standard 32 gig model. Now, going to the wireless portion, it does look like the LAN, so essentially hardwiring is available through the new dock, whereas in the standard Switch, this is just going to be with a wired LAN adapter sold separately. Nintendo Switch Lite, as you can see, does not have that option here. Now, video output, the Nintendo Switch Lite is limited to the built-in screen. OLED and standard Switch models are going to be able to put out to a 1080p so in 1080p resolution to a HDMI output of your choice. So basically you can hook it up to your TV and display the output in 1080p resolution. So that's really nice. And then you have the 720p built-in screen. That's a little bit of a concern for some people. When you have an upgraded model, you would expect some performance improvements, and honestly I can kind of understand that because a lot of people are thinking, okay, well, there's a bigger screen, the resolution has to be improved, but it doesn't really look like that's the case here, which is a little unfortunate. Now, audio output, as you can see, we have this 5.1 CH linear PCM output for the standard and OLED model, and that's not listed for the Lite. And then everything else is relatively honestly the same across the board. So Type-C for all of them. and then you'll see the Switch dock only for the OLED and the Switch itself. Headphone jack, same across the board. Game slots, same across the board. And then looks like it's pretty much the same for the micro SD card. The only other thing that's really worth noting, in my opinion, as far as differences here is going to be the internal battery. So you'll notice that the Lite has a slightly smaller battery. And when we go to battery life, interestingly enough, if you're looking at the OLED model, you're looking at a 4.5 to 9 hour battery life estimate. There are two estimates for the standard Switch. So 2.5 to 6.5 hours if you have an older model. I believe these are typically either on or before 2019. And then the newer models have a 4.5 to 9 hour battery life. So I would highly recommend checking the manufacturer date, or at least checking the serial numbers and comparing online and making sure that you're getting something that can have that 4.5 to 9 hour rating. But essentially, if you have one of the newer standard Switches, you're going to get the same battery life between the two. As you can see, they have an estimated rating playing the same game here with 5.5 hours or so. Obviously, that does depend on what you're actually doing. Approximately 3 hours across the board for the actual charge time itself. So again, just covering the primary differences here, you're really in the OLED model, you're getting twice the storage capacity, so you're getting the 64 gig, you're getting a slightly larger screen, so a 7-inch as opposed to a 6.2-inch screen, and then you're getting the that LAN port added into the dock. So for the small price increase, I think that's justifiable. If you're buying a handheld game, part of that experience is the screen itself. Even if the resolution isn't greatly improved, or honestly improved at all, the fact that you have a slightly larger screen, I think is really, really beneficial. And you can see a noticeable difference. And I feel like if you hold both of these, you can definitely feel that difference and notice that difference. Now, it is a little disappointing that you're not getting any massive performance increases or anything of that nature, but I think overall, that improvement is enough, especially when you consider prices. So I'll put this CNET article in the actual description as well, but you'll see that typically the OLED model, if I'm not mistaken, the actual retail price is $350. So you can ignore this price right here, for example, because the prices are, if I'm not mistaken, as follows, but do your own research just to make sure this doesn't change over time. I believe the OLED model is around $350. The Nintendo Switch is at $299, and then the Switch Lite is $199. Again, prices vary, but that is what I'm seeing across the board, so it's what I'm thinking is worth noting. So I think for a $50 increase, it's definitely worth going to the OLED model. But this is again based on what you can afford. Now, the Switch itself, just the standard model, I think is great. I think part of what makes it the Switch is obviously the games you play, but it's also those detachable Joy-Con controllers that allow you to put this in a dock and then play this with other people, or simply play by yourself on a larger screen. So that, along with the increased battery, I think is a huge win for the Switch itself. So all in all, I think it really boils down to what can you find where and what's your budget. Now, if you have any questions, drop them in the comment box below, and I'll see you all in the next video.